The man strapped beneath the guillotine is the lord of a great house. The boy who has been ordered to drop the blade is his son. I was the one who murdered my own father. Before this is over, that boy will lose everything his family has left, sell every part of himself to a demon, and go hunting for a power his own bloodline forgot how to hold. It begins on a gray morning, with a rope, an order, and a crowd too frightened to speak. 10 feet above a bowed head, a blade is waiting, and the shadow it casts is the kind that falls across a soul rather than a body. The boy standing beneath it holds a short, curved knife and wears no expression at all. The crowd has learned not to speak. A woman starts to ask how it ever came to this, and the man beside her cuts her off, because people who say the wrong thing here end up on the block themselves. The strong take what they want, and the weak stay quiet enough to survive it. The East has been burning for years now, in a war that caught in the dry grass and simply refused to go out, and the noble House of Marba is the latest name it has come to collect. Presiding over the morning, with the satisfaction of a man enjoying a performance he paid for, is Count Alan de Sylvester, lord of the rival house that engineered all of this. Let the show commence. The boy doesn't move, and the delay begins to irritate a count unaccustomed to waiting, though there is nothing behind that stillness except a faint tremble in the hand holding the knife. Eventually, he climbs the scaffold to where a bound man lies strapped beneath the blade. Ordered to cut the rope, he raises his arms and does it. The sound is no different from a cleaver coming down on a butcher's block. Blood reaches his face and stays there, running off his hands and spreading across the boards toward his boots, and the burden he was handed that morning is discharged in full. To rid the world of Leon von Marbas. I am Leon von Marbas, the son of the late Leon von Marbas, and a kinslayer who served as my father's executioner. He says it the way you'd read out a title. In theory, the lord of a noble house is a pillar holding up a nation, and a burden like that should only be handed to someone who can carry it. In practice, it lands where bloodline says it lands, and asks nothing about the age of the shoulders underneath. So the seat of House Marba passes to a 14-year-old, and his council responds by talking straight over him. Sylvester grows stronger by the day. An invasion could come at any hour. The defenses must be reinforced, and my lord must decide immediately, until the boy cuts through all of it with 3 words. No more of this. He asks them for patience and walks out while they are still protesting. It is not the conduct of a man in control of his own council. Marba was feared once, as a clan of necromancers, though that has been a line in a history book for a very long time. He stops in the portrait gallery, looks up at his parents, and asks them what they would have him do, knowing perfectly well that the dead don't answer, and asking anyway. What he wants from them is simple enough: a way to put his house back together before somebody finishes taking it apart. The founder, Leon von Marbas, was the only necromancer on the continent in his time, a man who swept armies aside and marched the dead along behind him until the entire eastern region fell to him in 2 months. He had done it by striking a pact with the devil Marba and unlocking the secrets of necromancy through a book called the Necronomicon. Every generation since has been one step further down the slope, and Leon closes the account with the admission that he was made to take his own father's life. The Necronomicon still rests in the Patriarch's office, so he opens it, and something answers. Heed me, young Patriarch. Which ought to be impossible, since that room is warded against magic. He notices the contradiction even as he asks, quite calmly, whom he is addressing. The reply takes the world out from under him. Red light, a summoning circle, and he is standing somewhere else entirely, looking up at a horned lion the size of a cathedral that wants to know whether his predecessor never mentioned it existed. It means his father. It can feel that the thread of mana binding it to Rune has been severed, and it mourns him the way an old creature mourns a disappointment, having always feared the man was far too kind for the lord of a dark house. Then it asks who dealt the dying blow. The roar takes up the entire sky, and the question comes again. Is he the one who slew its oath-bound contractor? A 14-year-old standing in front of something that could swallow him whole answers without hesitating. I am. I was the one who murdered my own father. The demon does not take that well. It lunges, and Leon is off his feet and through the air before he can flinch, swallowed by red, dark, and grasping hands until he surfaces again, dazed and barely holding on. Then the fury drains out of its voice, and it offers him the excuse he is entitled to take. The hands that cut the rope may have been his, but that does not make him his father's killer. That is not the truth, and you know it. A boy refusing an alibi handed to him for free is enough to make the demon stop and look properly, and what it finds under the surface is an abyssal aura and far more magic than a child that age has any business carrying. Then the ground itself confirms the diagnosis. Light opens beneath his boots, and a lake of souls rises around him, and the demon, which has known a great many humans over a very long life, finds itself thinking that this one may surpass his ancestor. Then it remembers its dignity and clears its throat. It introduces itself properly. Marbas, one of the 72 demons of hell, who turned his back on the demonic realm to live among humankind, befriended Leon von Marbas, and taught this family everything it ever knew. Leon has heard the story since childhood. It has simply never been standing in front of him before. So he recites the doctrine he was raised on, that necromancy runs in their blood, and then asks the question hiding underneath it, "Why did you forsake us?" The demon is genuinely baffled by the accusation. The truth turns out to be worse than abandonment. The family cannot wield the necromancer's power because they are too weak to serve as a fitting vessel, and not one of them across all those generations came close to Wellen. Their decline was never a curse laid on them from outside. It was simply what they were. While the boy is underground being told what his family actually is, a very different meeting is underway upstairs. Sir Kirchel, his uncle, and the closest thing the house has to a rival claim, has gathered the council to explain that their patriarch is too young to hold authority over anything that matters, and that he intends to take charge himself. Then he graciously invites the room to share its opinions on his appointment as steward. They would be fools to disapprove, one councilman offers, when the alternative is a pup who hasn't come of age. Only one man objects, Pullen, a vassal who served Leon's father, who points out that the boy is the sole direct descendant of the previous patriarch, and that the family has no precedent for setting lineage aside. Precedent is worth nothing if the lineage is wiped out, he is told, and the Sylvester armies are marching on them at this very moment. If he wants to die beside his clueless young lordling, that is his affair. The rest of them intend to survive. The loyal vassal's fist comes down on the table. Every man there holds his seat by the grace of a lord who is barely cold, and he says so. He will not watch the boy's place be taken, even knowing exactly how alone that leaves him. He asks his dead lord how he could have left them to a vulture. Kirchel finds the outburst charming. Their patriarch has at least one loyal vassal, he observes. Loyal, but not shrewd enough to notice that the matter was settled some time ago. Then he walks around the table and rests a hand on the man's shoulder. "Do you truly suppose that I gathered you all here today because I have any regard for your opinions whatsoever?" The vote was theater, and the doors had barely opened before the outcome was decided. When the vassal finally says so aloud, his uncle advises him to consider his next words carefully, for the sake of his family, if nothing else. So the one man in that room who kept faith bows his head and apologizes to a corpse for failing to protect its legacy. Leon knows none of this. He is far below them, in the middle of deciding exactly what he is willing to pay to take it all back. Back in the red dark, Leon accepts all of it immediately and without visible injury, on the grounds that the weak losing to the strong is an unchanging law of the universe. Asked whether that is how he has made peace with his father's death, he answers that there was nothing special about it, either the coldest thing he has ever said or the most carefully rehearsed. Then he asks for a favor, and the fangs come out. A favor is charity, in which one party only stands to lose. Dealings with a demon are called a pact. He corrects himself without missing a beat and asks for a pact, for the power of necromancy. The demon wants to know what it has seen to justify handing over that kind of power, and the boy's answer is a genuinely elegant piece of reasoning. Ordinary people who so much as converse with a demon are stripped of their mana, begin hallucinating, and die once the demon has finished with them. He is still standing and still lucid. Whatever else that proves, it proves potential. Privately, the demon concedes the point and grants the pact with something close to delight. Leon asks what it will cost him. Every facet of your being. The boy smiles and calls that a relief, because he would gladly surrender every part of this meager existence. The pact sealed, Marbas has a confession of its own. Carrying it over from father to son has cost the demon, and its power is curtailed, because Rune, soft and naive as it considered him, held a far deeper reserve of mana than his son does now. So with a snap, the mountain of a lion collapses into a small black creature with a flame-tipped tail, a form considerably less burdensome to maintain. Leon observes that it is now adorable enough to pass for a pet, and is immediately informed that repeating the word will earn him a maze of bite and claw marks across his face. Then it starts walking, because the plan turns out to be beautifully literal. Leon wanted strength to rival his progenitor, so they will follow in Welland's footsteps by retracing them, to a hidden shrine that may well kill him on the way. Asked once more whether he still intends to come, he wants to know why the demon keeps questioning his resolve. The mistwoods of House Marbas fold into an unsolvable labyrinth for anyone not of his blood, and only the rightful patriarch may set foot in the shrine beyond. Which raises an awkward question. If this place hands out the power of necromancy, why is his family a ruin? Because none of them ever passed the trial. Only someone carrying the purest shade of black, the element of the abyss, can open a path through the fog, and nobody in the bloodline has ever managed it. Leon parts it on his first attempt. Beyond the doors, a staircase descends, and a voice that has been waiting a very long time grants entry to its descendant. From here, the demon can offer no help at all, only a single piece of counsel. Follow the Necronomicon's instructions at all times, and it will lead him toward his reward. Somewhere ahead in the corridor, something green fire catches in an iron sconce, and below him a group of goblins are moving in the dark with their blades drawn, gathered around a young woman bound and gagged on the floor. Leon opens the book. The first tenet, it tells him, is the secret to reanimating the dead. He turns the page. You must begin by taking the life of a living being. He closes it without arguing and draws his blade. An orc lunges. He ducks beneath the swing and drives the dagger home, and the thing comes apart in front of him. That makes 1. He is counting, and he already knows roughly how high the count will have to go. Before this goes any further, we need to go back, to a graveyard, and a father teaching his son the first principle of their house. What does House Marbas hold in the highest regard? Not power, and not the family name. We idolize death itself. Because they hold dominion over the undead, they are obliged to revere death above all else. The boy turns that over and finds the flaw in it almost immediately. Don't necromancers have to take lives whether they want to or not, if they mean to grow stronger? His father is pleased that he has been reading. They are dark mages, feared across the continent, and he does not pretend otherwise. But being feared, he says, does not require becoming heartless villains. And that distinction comes with a condition attached. Whoever his son faces one day, for as long as he holds dominion of life or death over them, he must swear to make their end as peaceful as he can. His father kneels in the rain to say it, so they are eye to eye for the promise. Years later, in a very different dark, the same boy smiles and asks whether that promise was really meant to cover everyone. The answer is currently being written in goblin blood. Surrounded in a corridor, holding a ceremonial dagger and no real training to speak of, Leon aims for the cervical vertebra with deliberate precision, because there is no faster or less painful way to kill a living thing. In the middle of a slaughter, he is keeping his father's oath to the letter. His demon notices exactly that from the shadows. The child has plainly never been trained with a sword, and yet the strike landed true. Luck? Or something inborn? Either way, it settles in to watch. Leon would say luck. Goblins are shrewd, the darkness is ruining his sense of distance, and the torches keep going out. One died with the first goblin he killed, a detail he files away without comment. So he adapts, letting his eyes adjust while there is still light left to lose, and changing his technique from cutting to piercing. After that, it becomes work. He ducks a lunge, trades a parry, opens a throat on the counterswing, and his night vision arrives just as another torch dies. His dagger, however, is losing the argument, chipping a little more with every clash. About all one can expect, he notes, from a ceremonial blade. Which is when he does the thing that makes his demons sit upright. In the middle of a fight, with a goblin bearing down on him, he throws his weapon away, dives past the creature rather than away from it, and comes up holding a real sword. It ends quickly after that. He steps in under the swing, cuts the goblin down, spins the stolen blade once in his hand as though testing the weight of it, and walks on through a corridor of bodies. In the chamber beyond, he finds a woman on her knees, bound and gagged, and frees her. She thanks him over and over for saving her life. He stabs her mid-sentence, because the other half of his father's counsel concerned monsters that mimic human beings, creatures the man had met himself out on the continent.
Ah!
She screams, and the face stops being quite right, and Leon recites the rest of the lesson, that those who deceive and exploit the trust of others do not deserve a peaceful end, and must be made to feel the same fear and despair they inflicted on their victims. So the boy who kills goblins as gently as he possibly can turns to the thing wearing a woman's face and tells it, almost pleasantly, that it could do with a lesson in suffering. While Leon is 14 and elbow-deep in a haunted shrine, his uncle is throwing a party. Kirchhoff is celebrating the fact that the house will shortly be his, and his guests are happy to agree that a distinguished gentleman makes a far better head of the family than a baby-faced boy, particularly one clever enough to have cut a deal with the enemy house to get there. Eventually, someone asks the practical question of what he intends to do about Leon, since the people of the estate were loyal to the boy's father and may not simply hand him over. Kirchhoff doesn't even sit up. The boy's death will be justified after the fact, he says, and then adds the line that gives him away completely. As you know, dead men tell no tales, and neither do their sons. That is not a threat about what is coming. That is a confession about what has already happened, and it lands in a room too drunk to hear it, where someone jokes that the last time anyone heard from the dead was centuries ago, back when the family still had necromancy, and they all drink to their next and rightful patriarch. Somewhere considerably colder, an enemy lord is asking whether the plan to subjugate House Marbas is proceeding smoothly. It is. Kirchhoff is already a pawn in their employ, and the only thing still missing is imperial approval for open war. The lord finds that funny. The imperial household were naive enough to assume he would wait for it. He glances over the man who sold his own family and cannot quite recall the name, and reflects that centuries of history are about to end at the hands of a short-sighted traitor. Then, he orders the preparations hastened. First the father, now the son. I can scarcely wait to hear the sweet sound of your cries. Back underground, the last torch dies and Leon stands over a body, breathing hard, wondering whether that was the end of them. Then, every torch in the corridor relights at once. Ordinary fire, ordinary color, and he allows himself to exhale. His demon is delighted, announcing that in its entire existence it has never met such a deranged contractor, and landing on his head to say so. It is genuinely impressed. The last monster's human disguise was very nearly perfect, and he ran it through at first glance. So it asks what gave him cause to suspect that the creature was working with the rest. The answer is that when every other torch had gone out, one of them stayed lit, because he had noticed on the way in that the flames down here burned green. Green being the shade of the dead. And sure enough, every monster he killed put out another light. So when the goblins were finished and one flame was still burning, the arithmetic is simple. Something in here was still alive, and he could not move on until it wasn't. The grateful, weeping woman never had a chance with him. He had solved her before she opened her mouth. The demon calls him frightfully cold-blooded and does not entirely mean it as a compliment. It would not expect a boy of 14 to reason that far under those conditions, when merely reading a situation with your life at stake is difficult enough, let alone acting on it without a moment's hesitation. Privately, it begins to suspect there is more to him than an unusually deep reserve of mana, that he may be hiding something genuinely rare, and it finds the prospect entertaining. Then the grimoire opens itself. The first trial is behind him, and the second is waiting. Taking the life of a living being has been accomplished, repeatedly. Second, you must raise the fallen, the undead. He looks around at a corridor full of goblins he killed himself only minutes ago, all of that raw material lying there, still warm. And Leon von Marbas smiles. So the demon sets about teaching him how. It tells Leon to look at the goblins he has just killed and to pour mana into his eyes, and when his sight sharpens, he sees it, a thread trailing from every corpse into somewhere he has no name for. The Necromancers had a word. A death line, the line each soul follows across the boundary of death and into the next world. Separate that lingering soul from its body, breathe it back with your own mana, and the body will rise and move at your command. Marbas offers a demonstration. A goblin hauls itself upright, red-eyed, a brand burned onto its brow, lunges, and is put down in the same breath. The technique is called branding, and it is the only one that takes on monsters. Then the demon hands the ritual to Leon. But before he tries it, Leon has a question he has been holding. His predecessor once warned him that raising a human is far harder than raising a beast. So has he come far enough to turn a person undead? The demon studies him. That, it notes, is the question of someone who already has a use for it. As it happens, I do. It asks who the unfortunate wretch is. Leon gives the name without a flicker. Leon von Marbas, his one and only uncle. His uncle, at that hour, is drunk and delighted. Leon has been celebrating a while. The late patriarch was a fool, he tells the room, and life has been nothing but smooth sailing since the man finally died. His companions agree that all that remains now is the boy, and Leon waves it off. Murdering a child hardly counts as a problem. He raises his glass to as auspicious a day as any, and the building shakes.
This is not supposed to be possible. The parlor is warded. It should take more than a gust of wind to move these walls.
Leon hushes the woman beside him and calls into the dark. There is not a soul left in Marbas territory with the nerve to raise a hand against him. A voice answers out of that dark. What gave him such an idea? Then the light catches a hooded figure, and the uncle finds himself looking at his nephew. Leon greets him with poisonous courtesy. Does the lord of the estate truly need a reason to call on a vassal? Must he announce his intentions in advance for Leon's convenience? Any worthy lord would need neither. The old man's civility cracks. They both know the boy is far from worthy. Does it frighten him, Leon sneers, that his seat may be taken from him? It is too late regardless. His father is no longer here to keep him safe. No, Leon answers. He has learned instead that only he can keep himself safe now. Leon laughs. Bold of the boy to seek him out alone, as though he had lives to spare. Bold, uncle. The real boldness, Leon says, was assuming he came alone. And there it is. Not common magic, but something out of the abyss. A cold Leon knows from somewhere far beneath the world, welling up around him. They rise from the dark behind the boy, green-skinned, red-eyed, the goblins he butchered in the shrine, standing again at his word. Not even his late brother could have wielded this, Leon breathes, and Leon only states the obvious. House Marbas was, and is once more, a clan of necromancers. The uncle screams for his guards to cut the abominations down. Blades meet dead flesh, and the dead flesh fights back, parrying, tearing into the men sent to end it. Leon stands frozen at the center of a slaughter he cannot stop, and settles at last on the only word he has left for the nephew he meant to bury. You monster. Something is wrong, and Leon knows it before he understands it. Blades he cannot see are cutting his men down around him, and when his eyes finally adjust to the dark, they tell him a thing he refuses to accept. The boy is truly commanding the art. Necromancy, lost for centuries and buried in history, in the hands of a brat he has always dismissed. He will not entertain it. If he needs proof, Leon says, then proof is the one thing left to offer, and it would be unwise of him to insist. The goblins come for him. Kirchel is a mage, and for a moment that is enough. He blasts them back toward the abyss, smashes them apart, and his old confidence returns with the reek of his own magic. But there are always more, climbing up where the last ones fell. Then the tide turns. One reaches him, then another. He calls for aid, and none comes. The truth he has buried for years surfaces where only he can hear it. His command of magic is barely a novice's, and tonight it is drowning in liquor. He is in genuine danger, and even now he cannot make himself take a child seriously. A rusted blade goes through him. He gasps, bleeding, and spits that Leon will never be forgiven for turning on his own flesh and blood, and Leon cuts him off, unhurried. He once read a history of the continent with his father. There are victors, and there are the vanquished, and time is what decides which was which. As hollow of feeling as he is, he says, he has learned one thing from that book. Forgiveness is the privilege of the victor. And Kirchel was a victor once, the day he put a knife in Rune's back and bought himself a few more years. But the times have changed. Leon names him in full, the way you name a man you intend to remember, and offers him no farewell, only the hope that he suffers every step of the way down. He will treasure this as the day of his uncle's defeat. The goblins take him apart in the name of the patriarch of House Marbas. The demon watches the corpse being hacked long past death and remarks that Satan himself would weep at the sight, and that no first-time necromancer has any business being this fluent, as though the boy had been raising the dead for a decade. Leon isn't listening. Something has occurred to him, and the smile that arrives with it unsettles even the demon. Amusing, it asks, or terrifying? Across the estate, the council of House Marbas has gathered again at Kirchel's summons, and no one can say why. They pass the time trading worries. An urgent meeting is never nothing. Perhaps Sylvester means to break the treaty and strike while the house is in disarray. The calm one waves it down. No one reopens a war between great houses without the king's own approval. Better to wait. It will all become clear once Kirchel takes his seat as head of the family. Then the great doors swing open. It is not Kirchel who walks in. It is the boy, alone, and the whispers start at once. This was the uncle's meeting, not his. Has he come to challenge the rightful heir? Leon reaches the head of the table and asks mildly whether they had expected to see his uncle in his place. He slides something across the wood. Kirchel will not be joining them tonight, or rather, he is unable to. One elder presses him to clarify. Leon leans in. He is dead. By my hands, in fact. The hall freezes. He laces his fingers, lets the silence do its work, and asks whether any other member of the council has something they would like to say. An elder is on his feet before the echo dies, a fist on the table, demanding the boy explain the death of the house's most senior man before they have so much as mourned the last patriarch. Leon gives him the explanation he asked for. Leon von Marbas was a traitor. He turned on Rune, handed vital information to House Sylvester, and moved to seize the seat that was never his. What he finds curious, Leon adds, is how loyally a room defends a man who had earned a summary execution. This very meeting was convened in Kirchel's name, and Kirchel is nowhere to be seen, which rather supports the claim that he is dead. The elders feel the floor tilt beneath them. Indignation curdles into fear, and fear into a scramble. They knew nothing, they insist. How could they have guessed the old weasel was plotting anything at all? Silence! If their innocence is real, Leon says, it only convicts them of a different crime, the negligence of a council that failed to notice a traitor seated in its own hall. When one of them demands proof, he rises. They are reacting, he observes, exactly as someone far more discerning than himself had foreseen. By whom, an elder dares to ask. Leon offers no name. He only glances for a moment at the small black cat beside his chair. They asked for proof. The Necronomicon answers the call, igniting in dark blue flame, and Leon begins to speak the words, the true-born son of House Marbas, summoning a damned soul back into the world. Undead goblins tear up out of the dark with their blades, and the elders finally understand what they are looking at. A spell to raise the dead, in the hands of a boy who was never supposed to have it. Then something worse hauls itself upright. Kirchel, reanimated, wreathed in violet fire, jerks to his feet like a puppet on the end of Leon's voice, and is commanded to confess with whatever is left of his mind. The elders can only stammer the same question they have asked all night, and Leon has tired of it. What, exactly, is so shocking about necromancy when necromancy is the root of House Marbas itself? The room breaks all at once. They scream at one another to run, and the undead are faster than any of them. A hand closes on a shoulder, a chest opens, a body drops, and the council chamber turns into a killing floor. The loudest of them ends the night crawling through blood, begging for mercy, as a pair of footsteps stops beside his head. This meeting, Leon informs him, is not yet finished. He raises the corpse a second time and asks it plainly, was there one soul in this room who did not know what Kirchel was? The dead man answers in a broken, halting voice. All those who served the last patriarch were turned against him, down to the last man. Not a person present was ignorant of his treachery. There, Leon says, they have their answer. What remains of the council folds completely, pleading forgiveness, confessing on the spot, begging for any chance to prove their loyalty. Leon lets the screaming run itself out, a lone, dark figure with the grimoire drifting at his shoulder. Then he lifts his hand and makes it law. By the authority vested in him as patriarch, before the assembled council of House Marbas, the dark art of necromancy has been restored. Not everyone in that hall survived the meeting. Leon stands in the wreck of it, blood across the boards, a body where the argument ended, and asks where he might find Sir Pullen. A shaking servant admits the man was cast into the dungeons on a charge of sedition and is made to lead the way. To the rest of the staff, Leon offers a courtesy that is not one. They may flee if it pleases them, but he cannot be held accountable for what happens next, and for all their sakes, he trusts they will make the prudent choice. Elsewhere, in a far brighter hall, the Lord of House Sylvester receives a letter and smiles. Even the imperial household has turned its back on House Marbas. His age sharpens the knife. Strip away the founder and the Marbas name has always been more renown than substance, thin on gold and thinner on men. Next month, the war of noble houses will bring the old house to its knees at last. Is he certain of victory? The Lord asks. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, unless a full-fledged necromancer should somehow grace House Marbas after centuries of mediocrity, or the founder Welland should climb back out of his grave. Short of that, the odds of losing are negligible, and the Lord decides the war is already theirs. Pullen throws himself flat the instant he sees him, begging forgiveness. He let Kirchel's ambitions fester unnoticed until they nearly cost Leon his life, and deserves nothing short of death. Leon, who has already noted privately that this is the one vassal who openly defied his uncle, and therefore a man he must keep, tells him to rise. There is work to be done, and he has need of his service. Pullen weeps, bewildered that anyone could want a wretch like him, then pledges his everlasting fealty, and is dryly told to bathe first. That evening, the demon lands on his shoulder and asks what he means to do next. The choice, it says, is his. The answer alarms the freshly scrubbed Pullen badly. Leon intends to make contact with House Sylvester, while wearing the face of the traitor Kirchel. It would take an impossible performance to feign the man convincingly, Pullen protests. Leon raises a glowing hand. Will this not suffice? Purple light gathers and rises into a towering undead thing wearing Kirchel's gray-haired likeness, blinking awake above the cowering vassal. Pullen can barely speak. The young lord has bound his own uncle as a minion and finds nothing strange in it at all. So the rumors are true, then. He has truly mastered necromancy. Leon supposes that he has. Pullen sees the flaw at once. An undead Kirchel might fool the Sylvesters for a time, But the dead cannot forge a living man's handwriting, his habits, his turns of speech. Sooner or later, the ruse would break. True enough, Leon says, except this was never raised from Kirchel's corpse. It is the undead form of a doppelganger, a monster that copies a victim's appearance, their living memory, and even their abilities. He had found it during the trial, a body on the dungeon floor, his blade still wet, and a question to the demon. Does this monster have a name? Doppelganger, it had answered, a creature that mimics a lost or straggling traveler, murders the original, and devours whatever companions the victim kept. The apple, it added, does not fall far from the tree. Does it, Wellen? Leon raised the thing where it lay, and now its undead form comes fully awake beneath his hand, blue-eyed and grinning, a perfect stolen face waiting to be walked straight into the enemy's house. The shapeshifter tries on a face for him, a lavender-haired woman someone Leon once crossed paths with, then dissolves into smoke. The demon lays out its limits. It can only become a target the Necromancer has already met, and never one whose magic runs deeper than his own. And there is a cost. A trapped soul rots without a way to anchor it, so the demon suggests he leave House Marbas a while to find one. Out of the question. Leon will not turn his back on his bloodline. He would sooner die for the people of the estate than leave them to the Sylvesters.
Misguided loyalty, the demon calls it, then lets it go, because there are more pressing matters, and tells him to raise the creature. It was one of Welland's own undead, it warns, and its temper can be trying. Leon speaks the words, and the thing that answers is enormous, a horned, glowering giant, until it shrinks to a ridiculous little blob, fumbles for a shape, and settles on wearing Leon's own face so it can insult the cat with Leon's mouth. The demon is beside itself. The creature only shrugs. Threats mean little to something already dead. Its name is Crow. With Pullen, the plan takes its final shape. If Crow can wear Kirchel down to his smallest habits and pull his memories up whole, the undead uncle can be sent into House Sylvester's court as though nothing had happened. Pullen does not merely guarantee it, he asks to run the deception himself. Then the old vassal asks the question that has been sitting under everything. Why stay? The Sylvesters will secure their imperial approval and come again. Fleeing would give far better odds. It is his duty, Leon says, and when Pullen presses for the truth beneath the duty, he admits he has turned it over himself for a long while. He has no grand purpose. He only wondered how a person becomes a worthy head of a house, and what worthy even means, and he does not have the answer yet. So he is buying time to find it, thwarting everyone who would take from House Marbas, refusing to repeat his father's one mistake, until the day the reason he fights finally makes itself clear. Later, Crow has taken the shape of a robed human servant, still needling the demon, still calling Leon contractor to the cat's fury. Marba explains what Crow is, the founder's old familiar, a loyal servant and assassin, left to Leon along with everything else Welland bequeathed, a killer who can wear any face, which makes him exactly what Leon needs. Can he take up the guise of a dead uncle? Easily, Crow says, a piece of snake, and no, he does not want the idiom corrected. Then Pullen brings a letter, and the banter dies. House Marba has neglected its ducal duties for a century, it reads. House Sylvester, under Count Alan de Sylvester, hereby challenges the house to a war of noble houses. Surrender in time, and its people will be spared. Refuse, and in 1 month the Sylvester army will march on the duchy and level everything left standing, in the name of His Majesty the Emperor. And thus, the demon murmurs, the storm approaches. A month, Leon says. The demon asks whether the number frightens him, and offers the sensible course: flee, regroup, fight another day. It has misread him. He is not afraid of the month. He is not sure he has the patience to wait that long. A flame gathers in his palm, and the letter burns. One unhinged contractor, Marba says, and the enemy will come in the hundreds, nothing like one drunk uncle. Will he face them regardless? Leon only smiles. Behind him, the dark answers his hand, a wall of red-eyed skulls rising out of nothing, his eyes kindling gold. This time, he will spare no thought for mercy, only snuff out every life in sight. That is the boy's first taste of vengeance, and if you have come this far, you already know this is not a story that slows down. We are barely a third of the way in. If it has its hooks in you, do the small things that keep a channel like this alive. Subscribe, leave a like, and tell me in the comments whether Leon is a hero or a monster yet, because I honestly cannot decide. Now, while the young lord is underground raising an army, the world above has already begun to talk about him. In the town square, the talk is all of Sir Kirchel, vanished overnight, one more dark omen in a year already full of them, the old patriarch barely cold. They worry for the young lord, orphaned of his last kin, and wonder whether the boy has the grit for the storm they can all feel coming. Then a throat clears behind them. Sir Pullen has been listening, and reminds them pleasantly that loose lips sink ships.
The vassals bow to Leon and offer their condolences on the loss of his uncle. On the contrary, he tells them, his uncle is very much alive, merely bedridden, a sudden illness, and it is best, for now, that the realm goes on believing Kirchel lives, so no one need trouble themselves over him. To Pullen, lo, keep every surviving vassal and every witness silent. The trick to deceiving your enemy, he reflects, is to deceive your own people first. Pullen asks what brings him all the way to the town center. He would gladly have fetched whatever the lord needed. This, Leon says, he has to see for himself. The demon on his shoulder has caught the scent of something, a potent magic, close by, inside the building ahead. Leon orders him to seal the door behind him and let no soul pass, and goes in alone. Inside is a crime scene, a bloodied circle chalked across the floor, blood on the glass, men standing around something on the ground. That something is what the demon sensed. A silver-haired beast man, wrecked and bound, blue fire still guttering off his skin. Such talent, the demon sighs, left to rot. No one in Leon's house ever had the eye to notice it. A sweating manager hurries over. There was some trouble last night. Perhaps the young master might return another time? Then the proprietress sweeps in, elegant and pink-haired and smiling, and kicks the beastman for the crime of having spoken to a lord, apologizing that a lowly mongrel should have been the one to greet him. This, she tells the slave, is the Lord Marbas. He lowers his eyes and apologizes. He is new here. He did not know. Leon has no interest in her apology. His business is with the beastman. The demon has been clear. This one holds immense room to grow, and would make an essential vassal. Walter can barely hold the thought upright. This boy is the head of House Marbas? Before he can settle it, Leon lifts a hand wrapped in violet magic and closes the wounds, dark tendrils knitting torn skin whole. The beastman stares at his own restored hands. For the last time, Leon asks, might he have a moment of his time? The proprietress cuts in, nervous now. The beastman is her property, with no time of his own to grant. If anyone is to be asked, it is her. She wasn't there, Leon notes, the night he killed his uncle, and with every witness to it dead, she cannot know what she is looking at. So he offers her two questions instead. First, since when does the Duchy of Marbas permit the owning of slaves? And second, his predecessor was taken from the house long ago, so why does she keep calling him by his childhood title? She goes cold, because she does not recognize him as the rightful patriarch of House Marbas. And behind the boy, the demon rises vast and black, the grimoire open, its page watching with a living eye. The demon is delighted. Well said, my bold contractor, and warns the room he will not suffer disrespect toward the bearer of his pact. The slaver who runs the place, red-haired and yellow-eyed, is still mid-threat when Leon talks straight over her. She is not the only soul he came here for. Free every slave you hold, he tells her. All of them. She has 10 minutes,
and there will be no second chance at his grace. The beast-man on the floor protests that he has done nothing to deserve such kindness. He is only a worthless slave. Leon answers by snapping his fingers, and the room springs its trap. The thugs rush him, loud with borrowed courage. "Sir Kirchell," they shout, "will have their backs." They do not know Sir Kirchell is already a corpse. Leon opens the grimoire. A purple hand tears up out of a portal, and a green horned thing rises, shrieking, and falls on the thugs. While it works, Leon draws his own chipped blade, finds it wanting, and politely asks the nearest man to lend him a better one, thanks him, promises to return it, and steps into the slaughter himself. The madam watches the useless little boy she had been mocking cut her men down, and cannot make the two things fit together. The beastman wonders what a great house could possibly want with him, and the question opens an old wound. He had been a drifter, shunned the length of the continent. As a child, the villagers beat him in the mud and blamed his kind for a ruined harvest, and he never grasped why the other children so loved to watch him suffer, only that he was different, and that difference was reason enough. Then, one day, his own power answered them, and he stood among the hurt and broken children and understood, for the first time, that perhaps he truly was the monster they had always named him. So he ran. "What have you done?" the madam. "Does he imagine his little tantrum will make Sir Kirchell surrender his title? A useless lordling cannot touch them." For now, Leon allows, she may be more right than she knows. But he has no intention of remaining the useless lordling who looks injustice in the face and does nothing. He means to become a patriarch worthy of House Marba, and in the estate he intends to build, there is no place left for her. She dies where she stands. From behind Leon, the beastman watches it happen. This is a man with blood to the elbows, and yet, strangely, he feels no fear at all in his presence, and cannot say why. Leon turns to him. "Walter, is it?" He asks whether the beastman would stand with him. There is real work ahead, and real use for him. But before he answers, Walter has a question of his own. He is a cub of the demon wolf tribe, reviled even among beast folk. Must he be scorned to the end of his days? Must his people go on living in shame like animals? No more, Leon tells him. He knows little of their plight, but if beast folk are crushed under prejudice for no reason worth the name, then from this moment on, that ends. Walter will be a trusted vassal of House Marba. He gives his word and holds out his hand. Walter takes the offered hand. He can barely speak for the tears, but he manages it. He would be glad, he says, only glad, to serve. And so House Marba has its beastman. Far away, in the white-spired capital of the Arkheim Empire, a different court is in session. The old emperor sits silent and ailing on his throne, while his son rules in his place, Crown Prince Louis, the most powerful man in the realm, and at present a bored one. An envoy of House Sylvester has come crawling with glad tidings, and it takes the prince a moment to care. Then the man says the name, House Marba, the object of the prince's hatred these many years, one of the three houses of the abyss. "Lend Sylvester your support," the envoy urges, "and your oldest enemy is gone for good." But no living Marba can wield their necromancy, he assures the prince, and Sylvester has grown strong enough to stand against a duke. Good enough. Louis blesses the gambit and sends him off to bury the grave robbers, then turns to his silent, dying father to say the quiet part. Marba is a relic of a bygone age, and he means to sweep it away, and everything else besides, once it is all finally his. Back at the estate, there is the problem of Walter's face. The common folk still mistrust beastmen, so Pullen presses a disguise artifact on him. A red charm that smooths the wolf away and leaves a plain young man behind. Then Leon calls the room to order. He has a few things to settle, and the first is this. He needs their oaths of fealty to be more than pretty words. Will they give him their undying loyalty? Him and no one else? Pullen bursts into tears and swears his whole life to the house on the spot. Crow, the shapeshifter, wearing his own horned shape now, is impressed that the boy bent the stubborn old man so easily. Domination, the cat agrees, is the very marrow of House Marba. Those are your tenets, Leon tells them, not mine. But before anything truly begins, he wants a pact, one bound in mana. Refuse it, he says, and he will take it to mean they never meant to follow him at all. It is a covenant that weaves two people's magic into a single, unbreakable thread, close enough to share the secrets that must never see the light. No one objects. So they begin. Leon casts it, purple mana cratering the floor around him, and Walter and Pullen take hold of the binding. And then the demon stops being a cat. Marbas rises into the room as the Black Lion, red-eyed, vast, the god that lent the bloodline its name, and declares himself witness. Every vassal who swore to his contractor is bound now, in his very soul, to the dominion of Marbas. Praise be, Leon murmurs. Behold your lord, the demon proclaims. The sovereign of the undead has risen. Enough theatrics, Leon tells the towering lion. These are his trusted vassals, and it will treat them with respect. The demon relents, but names the price of the pact plainly. Their very souls, and no breach of it will ever go unpunished. Then the lion folds itself back down into a small black cat. A cute little kitty, Walter blurts, before Pullen can get a hand over his mouth. The cat lets it pass, but a war is coming, and its existence stays a secret. It shows itself, it reminds them, only to those it chooses. The demon has a thread worth pulling. The realm's nobles never much cared for Kirchel, but a letter once passed through the dead proprietress's hands on its way to him, and that letter is a lead. Where is it? Crow knows. He heaves up the treasure chest he looted from the tavern, thoroughly pleased with himself. He razed the place and killed its mistress, so by the logic of the victor, everything inside it is his. Leon digs through the jewels and lifts out what he came for. It is Sylvester's declaration of war, the very copy routed to Kirchel through the proprietress, proof in ink of how close the enemy and the traitor always were. Dressed in the emperor's authority, it charges House Marbas with neglecting its duty to the crown and appoints Count Allen to collect the debt. 1 month. Raise the white flag and be swallowed whole into House Sylvester, or resist and prove your innocence on the battlefield. A month, Leon murmurs, and finds the number does not trouble him in the least. The time is not the problem. What interests him is an idea, an amusing one now that he can move the undead with nothing but a thought. He turns to Crow. He has, he says, a mission for him. In the halls of House Sylvester, the mood is lighter. The war has been declared, a vassal reports, and the traitor Kirchel wept and clung to his legs so pitifully the man nearly finished him on the spot. Count Allen laughs. Keep the oaf breathing, he says. The power of House Marbas sits more comfortably in a fool's bumbling hands than anywhere else. And the boy, the rightful heir? No word of him. Surely Kirchel has had him killed by now. Excellent, the Count says, and yet he does not look relieved. Why fret over a boy of 14? What could that twerp possibly have? The vassal scoffs, and the Count cuts him off. This is Leon von Marbas's bloodline they speak of. Nothing from that accursed line would surprise him, and so they will be ready for anything. Back home, 2 Leons stand in the hall. One is the boy, the other is Crow, wearing his master's face down to the last thread, his memories, his voice, the exact cadence of his speech, though human words should be foreign to the thing Crow truly is. Crow cannot resist boasting in Leon's own voice that he offers rather more than a certain kitten does, and the cat launches itself at him, shrieking, while Leon watches the pair with a thin smile. Is it always this loud here? The young recruit whispers. Sir Pullen advises him to keep quiet. He will live longer that way. The month they have been granted is not spent idle, and a good part of it goes to Walter. Leon hands him a training blade and sets the terms plainly. He has that month to prove his talent is worth keeping, or he is no part of what comes next. Leon has no use for a vassal certain to die. Walter grips the sword and swears he will earn his place. And once that place is his, once he stands as the most trusted swordsman in the house, will Leon grant him a single wish? Leon smiles, and gives his word.
Pullen takes charge of the training, and it is not gentle. Walter crosses blades with the knights of the house, and then with worse. Leon steps in and raises the dead to come at him in earnest, because a month is not long, and Leon does not train with anything soft. Walter drives through the undead until he is spent and sinks to one knee. "Welcome to House Marba," Leon tells him. "Rise as my very first knight." A month passes. Then the day comes, the War of Noble Houses. A lone herald rides out beneath House Sylvester's banners to deliver the last word. Marba has refused a generous surrender, and now its innocent subjects will die alongside it. Leon receives the threat without a flicker. And thus it begins. His people bristle. The demon tells them not to take the bait. Sylvester's noise is only fear wearing armor. "They are still outmatched on every front," Pullen warns. "There is an opening," Leon answers. "The enemy's scheme has already failed." The scheme was Kirchel. Had the traitor lived to see this day, the demon explains, Marba would have surrendered at the first trumpet. He did not. And armies are fragile things. A single turn of fortune they can't explain gnaws from within. Why hasn't the enemy yielded? What do they know that we don't? By the time that doubt takes hold, a force has all that halved itself. "Still outnumbered even so," Pullen notes. The demon grins. A worthy contractor of his wins against the full, let alone the half. And even the demon, who does not hand out praise, admits it is a little stunned by him. Leon summons, and to the demon's eye the marvel is not the horde, but the boy. Barely a week since he first touched his own magic, and already he reads the flow of mana with his eyes shut. The weakest dead the art can raise claw up out of the ground and crash into the enemy line all the same. The old creatures of the house trade prophecies over his back. "This one," the demon murmurs, "may drown the continent in blood a second time and take everything he reaches for, and beyond even that. If he lives long enough, he may open the most forbidden door of all, the terrible art of turning back time itself." Then Leon rises from the working, drained, green eyes opening, and smiles. "It is done," he says. Now, what shall he train next? The demon has a new lesson, and it begins by discarding the old one. Whatever cheap conjuring the uncle called dark magic, Leon is to forget entirely. Welland did not conquer the eastern continent with corpses alone. Necromancy, for all its power, is only one branch of a far larger art, and raising the dead at all demands a deep well of mana and real command of the dark. "Spoken like true vassals of the founder, Pullen." The demon corrects him. "It was never Welland's vassal. It was his friend and his equal, and stood beside him as one. But before he can learn any of it, there is a prerequisite, and not a small one. The hidden depths of his mind are a vessel," the demon says, "and inside it sleeps a reserve of magic so vast that, once he can reach it, this war would be child's play beside what he could truly do. Dark magic charges a heavy toll, of course." Leon had suspected as much, but the demon doubts he has cause to worry, because the well it senses in the boy matches the founder's own, and may run deeper still. Blessing or curse, it hardly matters. He has no other road back to his house's strength. The method is not safe, and the demon will not pretend otherwise. It cannot promise he comes back at all. Leon only asks how it is done. Something wakes in his usually dead eyes as he listens. Whatever else drives the boy, one thing truly moves him, and it is neither duty nor grief, but a plain, bottomless hunger to know and to have. "Drain your mana to the very last drop," the demon tells him, "and your own depths will do the rest." Let the test begin then. The power pours out of him until there is nothing left, and then he folds. Pullen catches him, wailing that they cannot lose him this soon. The demon snaps at the old man to have a little faith in his patriarch. Even Crow, for once, agrees with the cat. The boy may be the most gifted contractor either of them has ever seen, and if his potential truly rivals Welland's, he will find his way back. Around the unconscious boy, his vassals kneel and wait. Leon wakes somewhere else. The lit hall is gone. He stands alone in a black, smoke-thick void.
and when he walks, the dark resolves into the ruins of a town he knows, his home, unmade, and a lone figure standing far off among the rubble. The figure turns, a black-haired man in a neat suit, smiling as though he had been waiting all this while, greets Leon by name and says he had a feeling the boy would come. They have much to discuss. And Leon, who has not seen that face outside of memory in a very long time, can only manage a single word. Father? Not his father, exactly. The man in the ruins knows why Leon has come. His very presence here means the boy reached for his sleeping power, but he cannot help the way a living father could. He is only a figment now, a magical record left behind in Leon's mind, because the real Rune died at Count Alan's hands. And the reason he died, he says without flinching, was simple. He was born without the gift. A cruel fate, he offers. Leon says nothing. Still, a record can give one last thing. Rune never earned the demon's respect, never could so much as open the Necronomicon, so his son must walk a different road than he did. In life, he built a spell for exactly this, a way to pour every drop of mana his ancestors ever held into Leon. But Leon remembers a warning in this same voice, that to take another's magic as your own is to risk it turning feral inside you and tearing your mind apart. He listened well, Rune says. There is a reason it will not destroy him. Imprinted mana resists a new owner. But Leon is the exception, a blank slate, and not since Wellen himself has the bloodline produced a reserve of dark magic so perfectly pure. So Rune lets it come. The pooled power of every Marba who ever lived tears open around the boy in a howling vortex, shattering the ruins, and through it his father names the thing plainly. This is who you are, my son. You were blessed with the greatest gift of our line. When it settles, so does the orb of it, cool in Leon's palm. More magic than he has felt in his life. Their reunion is ending, Rune tells him, though not for the last time. And there is one thing left to give, an amulet with a name. Greed. It will devour everything Leon sets beneath his feet with feral glee, and he must never forget what it is. When they meet again, his father says, the boy will come back here on his own, on the day his heart wants it most. Then, as the dreamscape breaks apart beneath him, Rune leaves him with something gentler and worse. If wishing could shape it, Leon would rise as the brightest star the continent has ever seen. But the future is closed to him now, and he cannot say whether this gift carries his son toward glory or toward ruin. In his darkest moments, he admits, he fears it is the latter. Leon wakes to a ceiling and a ring of anxious faces. Pullen is beside himself. The boy is barely 14. What if the ordeal left some permanent mark? The demon has no patience for it. If their lord cannot survive so basic a trial, it says, Pullen may meet the old patriarch sooner than he would like, so set the fretting aside and keep faith. Then it turns serious, and warns them all to steady themselves. The patriarch about to wake is not the boy they knew. Leon opens his eyes, notes that his chest feels strangely heavy, and asks the cat politely to get off it. The cat refuses. It goes flying anyway. He rises among his vassals and their green torches, remade. And 4 days out, in a bright fortress across the land, the man who killed his father is giving a speech of his own. Count Alan de Sylvester tells his masked soldiers that today the centuries of proud House Marba will fade into a footnote. Follow me, he calls, and we shall write history anew. They roar it back at him. The war is coming for Leon's house, and it does not yet know what is woken inside it. Sylvester's column rides through a fog-drowned graveyard toward the thin point in the Marba line, the weak flank his informant pointed out. That informant rides beside him, Sir Kirchel, all smiles and gratitude. Sylvester wonders aloud why sentimental fools like the Marba would leave their ancestors' tombs so lightly guarded and array their whole force on open ground. Kirchel has an answer for everything. They are necromancers, my lord, not strategists, overcautious, always afraid to damage the sacred graves. He is very good at this. Then shapes rise out of the fog ahead. Not a weak flank at all, but an army. and at its head a boy with a black cat on his shoulder. Punctual, Leon tells the Count, just as they agreed. He came expecting the soft underbelly of a dying house, he says, and instead finds hundreds of men armed to the teeth. Might there have been some deception at play? And with that, what say you, Sir Kirchhoff? He cuts his own informant down where he sits. The body does not bleed. It dissolves into purple mist and Crow's true face, untouched, remarking that only his master may cut him with a sword. Sylvester stares. That blow should have opened a throat. The spy who fed him every scrap of intelligence had been Leon's all along. Only hundreds, Sylvester. An insult to the head of House Sylvester. One would have to be a threat, Leon replies, to be worth insulting. That is the whole reason he agreed to this war in the first place, to put the Count back in his place. He closes a bleeding fist, and the ground answers. Skeletons claw up out of the graveyard in their hundreds, red-eyed, and Sylvester finally sees what he walked into. Necromancy, as if a house of necromancers commanding the dead should come as a surprise. Then the Count asks the boy a question, the same one he once put to a frightened vassal. What is the greatest injustice a person can suffer? He gets his own answer back, word for word. To face a hopeless, overwhelming foe with no way to resist, and watch your whole world come down. And its cause is talent, the kind too deep to bear looking at. The Count is about to learn how that feels from the wrong side of it. The armies meet, and it is not clean. For all his gifts, Leon is still a boy of 14, and no amount of talent readies anyone for the ugliness of a real melee, as a Sylvester knight bowls through the press toward him. But the blade never lands. Crow steps into its path, in his own pale-haired shape now, and will let no one near his young master. It is his duty, he says, and he means to keep it. Sylvester throws his mages and his vanguard at the undead line, and over the din he keeps talking, because he needs the boy to understand him. He never counted his elder brother or his sister as true kin. Everything he holds he clawed up for himself, which is exactly why a pampered lordling handed the world at birth could never find the grit to beat him. Am I meant to care about your family, Leon? Is it vengeance you are after, the Count, because if it is, he will die with nothing but regret to swallow. Two things, Leon answers. There are two flaws in his assumptions. A golden ring flares open in the air, a red eye waking at its center, purple fire gathering to his hand. He has no lust for revenge, and Sylvester is not powerful enough to take his life. That is all there is to it. A few days before the graveyard, they had planned it around a war table. The demon had heard worse stratagems in its many eons, but not many riskier. The ground was well chosen, it allowed, and little else. Leon was unmoved. When the best answer is staring you in the face, it is foolishness to hedge. His vassals fell in behind him, the loyal and the mocking alike, and Pullen swore to raise every soldier the house could muster, so his lord would not march to war alone. Before they broke, Leon had one question, about the amulet, his father's gift, the one named Greed. What would it cost to use it? The demon turned serious. The thing holds a power like poison, its full weight more than the boy could survive just now. That was why Leon had handed it over, for the demon to keep until a moment not yet come. For the war ahead, it told him, he was already as strong as he needed to be. But strong, the demon warned, is not the same as ripe. And there was the other danger, the human one. Leon could never truly see inside the men who knelt to him, and men are fallible things. Some of these very vassals had once betrayed his father. So why, the demon asked, were these mortals worth the risk he meant to take for them? The answer would keep.
In the present, in the graveyard, Leon opened his grimoire, and the enemy commander understood far too late what he was watching. "Stop the boy from casting," but the words were already leaving Leon's mouth. The lineal heir of House Marbas, calling the dead to his banner, bidding them answer and serve.
The graveyard answered. Armored dead clawed up out of the earth in their hundreds. And then something far larger woke among them, a monstrous undead beast wearing the black lion's red eyes, and waded into the enemy knights, flinging armored men aside like straw. Only now did the commander understand. The trap was the ground itself. The boy had drawn them onto a field of graves for the sole reason that he could raise an army out of it. There was nothing left to do but yield. Beaten, he gave his word. Leon and his people would be spared. On the field, with the rain falling on the dead, Leon walked toward the man who had lost. The commander knelt by his fallen sword, blue eyes wet, beaten through, and the boy came on through the carnage, yellow eyes cold, and stopped in front of him. The beaten count kneels and begs. He will never oppose House Marbas again. He will breathe not a word of Leon's power to the Empire. Only spare him. Were the two of them ever such friends, Leon asks, that they might trade favors like this? Vengeance only breeds more vengeance, Sylvester pleads. His hand was forced. Surely another patriarch understands the weight of the office. Leon grants him that much. The mantle does hang heavy on the shoulders. And then, how does any of that earn him mercy? There are no hard feelings, he tells the man. The only reason he is about to die is the plain arithmetic that his living serves House Marbas nothing at all. Farewell, my lord. Sylvester spits one last warning, that Leon will come to regret wielding such power so carelessly, that it is no plaything for a child, and the sentence is still in his mouth when the blade takes his head. The power costs him. Dark backlash tears out of Leon and drops him where he stands. Only mana depletion, the demon assures his frightened knights. But privately it is turning something over. There is a depth in the boy it has never fully sounded, and inside him sleeps a monstrosity that not even a demon can control, the true price of the bargain it made for every part of him. And there is something else, more pressing. Demons have begun to meddle in the affairs of men, an ill omen that. He wakes in a bed, to his household bickering around him. Pullen begs to atone for his failures on the executioner's block. The demon would happily watch. Crow and the cat trade insults across the sheets. The block will not be necessary, Leon tells the old man. He served with distinction. The war is won. Walter reports the Sylvesters collapsing without their leader, unlikely to march again for a long while, and Pullen beams that the house is back on its feet, before about one more small matter. House Marbas is very nearly penniless and buried in debt besides. Simple enough, Leon says. Bill the Sylvesters for reparations. Except the imperial household has expressly forbidden it. There is a reason. The three so-called demonic bloodlines, Lienhaber, Cider, and Marbas, are kept on a short leash by the Empire, and choking off the reparations is one more way to keep a rising Marbas small. A mess within and without, Leon sighs. How much do they owe, then? He starts guessing, and the numbers keep climbing. 50 million, 500 million, surely not 5 billion, while Pullen only sweats and says nothing. The debt, the old man admits at last, is 5 billion gold. Leon is still absorbing the number when two strangers reach the edge of Marbas land on separate business that proves to be the same. One is Rachel de Flamel, head acolyte of the prestigious Tower of Mages. The other is Carleen, who runs the southern arm of the continent's largest criminal syndicate and lends money the way a snare lends rope. They have both come to see exactly one person, the boy who just won a war and cannot begin to pay for it. So the two of them are shown in and take their tea and make their introductions. Rachel, a mage, head of the Aramita school, and Carleen, who runs the southern branch of the Lunatics. Somewhere in the pleasantries, Pullen puts the ruinous number to his lord, 5 billion gold. That is where the story has to pause, because this is as far as the pages go. If you want to be here when there is more of it to tell, subscribe. And if the Necromancer's young heir got under your skin the way he got under mine, leave a comment and let me know. Thank you for spending these hours in the dark with him. I'll see you in the next one.